Hi everyone, and welcome to the inaugural Neuromotion Ventures Demo Day. My name is Lawrence Lewis. I'm a venture developer at Neuromotion Ventures, and I'll be moderating today's talks and pitches. For the past year, we have been working on a new type of incubator, one dedicated to helping exceptional neurotech founders navigate technology development and regulatory barriers, and ultimately to bring their product to market. As with all growing companies, our teams are looking for funding, and for partners to share their journey, so we decided to give them a platform. Our program today includes an introduction to Neuromotion Ventures by Neuromotion founder and CEO Dr. Frank Zarnor. Following Frank will be a keynote talk by Dr. Bimal Lakhani, VP of Product and Lead Scientist at Health Tech Connects. And last but not least will be the pitches by our four teams. If you're interested in investing in or partnering with any of our companies, feel free to contact them directly and set up a call. Everyone's contact details will be made available after the event. So, first up is Neuromotion CEO Frank Zarnor with an introduction to Neuromotion Ventures. Frank is going to share our vision to push neurotechnology to the fore as part of the growing digital health and medtech industries.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this first event organized by Neuromotion Ventures. My name is Frank Zarnor, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Neuromotion group of companies. For me, the journey into entrepreneurship began in 1997, when I founded A&T Neuro as a software company specializing in brain data science. I am proud of my courageous first steps into business and my contributions to building a real powerhouse. A&T Neuro in the Netherlands was the first company in what became our Neuromotion holding in 2001, with now 10 entities across Europe, the US, Asia, and Australia. We have a fast-paced, dynamic, and well-organized team. We are seeing impressive business with leading neuroscience institutes and clinical researchers around the world. Our growing portfolio of clinical products in promising brain health markets in more than 80 countries. And we are having fun at work. I have many good reasons to be optimistic about the future of our company. But I can honestly share with you the pains of this journey. Long list of mistakes, failed attempts, missed opportunities, and my own limitations that I had to deal with. I was completely unprepared for that job of a CEO and founder. I have struggled for many years to call myself an entrepreneur or manager. And I failed several times when dealing with key personnel strategic and especially commercial decisions. I loved product development and have come up with a vision for a line of products that was way too ambitious and impractical for a small team in the early days of the company. Our liquidity situation has been alarming more than once. I learned the hard way how to run this organization and how to make sure we can grow without falling off the rope. I am saying all that because I now firmly believe that dealing with failure is an integral part of the success recipe in every company. Celebrating success is another one. So, where do we go next with our 20 years of company building experience? On our journey, we are now embarking on Neuromotion Ventures. It is really exciting to help building companies in this special digital health sector, with a strong focus on non-invasive neurotechnologies, coupled with artificial intelligence, virtual reality, the cloud, and with strong support from neuroscience. And the timing for our initiative is perfectly right. The global trends in brain and mental health speak for themselves. Look at Europe. 1 in 3 of us will live with a neurological or psychiatric disorder at some point in our lives. The mental health cost burden has increased dramatically. The current pandemic and the challenges of work-life balance in remote working add another layer of urgency to it. We are currently involved in a rapidly growing number of founding teams and projects. All our projects start with an idea and a team, and they start small. Neuromotion is in a great position to spin out neurotechnology ventures. We focus on those who provide business models and products that complement and expand our existing activities. Much of the work, of course, happens behind the scenes. We offer our neurotech founders a lot. We give you a platform when looking for investors, partners, and customers. In addition to business coaching, we offer you in-depth know-how in hardware design, product development, and expertise when navigating complex quality management and international regulatory processes. With currently 3 locations here in Berlin, we formed an ecosystem for AI-inspired business development, hardcore engineering and prototyping, as well as all of the logistics it takes to serve customers worldwide. We offer an impressive network of scientific, clinical, and business mentors whom you can rely on as you make important decisions and guide the process towards your first marketable product. We make sure projects get completed and things get done. And yet, failure will be part of that journey. We want all of us bring innovation to healthcare consumers and patients, but we recognize that creating sustainable value in digital healthcare is a challenge. The complexity of innovating in brain health is so high that we need to engage with integrated efforts at all levels. In other words, I need your help to plant the seeds for many ambitious projects so that we can be successful together. But today is Celebration Day, and we are proud to present the first 4 companies in Neuromotion Ventures. All 4 have ambitious plans, enormous growth potential, and contribute so well to the diversity we wish to have in our portfolio. My special thanks go to Lawrence, Kaylee, Stephen, Kristen, and Andrea, and all the others in our team who made this event possible. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I give the floor to our keynote speaker.
Giving our keynote talk today is Dr. Bimal Lakhani. Bimal is VP of Product and Lead Scientist at Health Tech Connects in Surrey, Canada. He's going to talk about his journey with Health Tech Connects from lab to product to market and share his insights on what it takes to successfully bring a medical device to market.
Hi there, my name is Bimal Lakhani. I'm the VP Product at Health Tech Connects and Neurotech Incorporated in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. Coming to you today from Vancouver from my living room. Thanks so much for having me. I want to thank Lawrence and the entire team at Neuromotion Ventures for inviting me to speak today and really give a background on some of our trials and tribulations and our learnings as a company as we've gone from a lab into becoming a medical device and some of the decision points we made along the way on trying to decide whether we're digital health or medical, and some of the decisions we're making right now about that next step. So today, quick disclaimer. So about our product, we are a licensed medical device in Canada, not available in the United States or in Europe. I like to start with a picture of our team. We have a big team across 3 different sectors of our company. I get to speak to you today, but really this is the work of all of them. So I'm just thankful for all the time they put in. And I'm going to give you a very quick background on what our company has done to date. So we really formed our company around the concept of this question, which is, how is your brain doing today? It's a question that isn't very easily answered when you think about it deeply. And it's because there really isn't a clinical metric of brain function that you can get at point of care and easy to receive. So we'll give you a little more background with that question in mind. When the company started over 5 years ago, it was focused on answering that first question and trying to build a medical device to support that. So that started with Neurobright Incorporated, which is our medical device arm, and it's really the arm I represented the company. So the goal here was to basically take cognitive function and get a quick objective measure that would be available at point of care. And in doing this, we realized we wanted to do a lot of research in parallel. So we started a clinical trial site across the floor called the Center for Neurology Studies, which actually validates our own device. It's an independent team, but also brings in other medical technologies and tests those out as well, gets them ready for regulatory applications to the FDA and Health Canada and other notified bodies. And then seeing all this technology and getting excited by it, as well as our own technology, we decided it was time to open our own clinic. So we actually have the Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic, which is a fully functioning physiotherapy, occupational therapy clinic which brings in some of these technologies to be adjunct alongside the traditional therapies you might see. And so we call this our flywheel because in reality, these three arms all feed into each other to help make better products, do better research, and make for better treatments. So this concept of brain vital signs was born from that idea of how your brain is doing today. We have understanding of what blood pressure is, pulse oximetry, heart rate, but when you actually check what your brain function is, you don't really know what number to report. So this is the framework that was scientifically validated at a Simon Fraser University in Burnaby and then translated into a company from that research. And as I'm mentioning here, there's been a lot of publications and papers, just a small snapshot of what I could fit on a screen, of an idea that was born from Dr. Ryan Darcy, our Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder in the lab, and then translated into this company for clinical applications with Health Tech Connects and the NeuroCatch platform. And so NeuroCatch platform is an easy to use, objective, rapid neurophysiological brain function assessment that is licensed by Health Canada right now as a Class 2 medical device. And that's an important distinction because I want to talk a little bit about digital health today. And what I'm showing you here are some early images of what our next generation product is going to be using the ANT waveguard and the EEG Go mini series, as well as some of our software. I won't go too deep into that today, but if you want to learn more, I'm always happy to talk about that another time. So how do we start? You know, I go back to this concept of you really got to define your idea to know where you're going. So this is a contest for kids. This is Georgia. She's age 11 and really had this idea that, you know, it's really hard to get your Pringles out of the Pringle can. This is a can of chips. And when you want to get one, you actually have to pull them all out. And it becomes very messy. So she struggles to get her Pringles out and she's got the cure for you. The idea here is a metal rake that allows you to pull your Pringles out. Great. So she's defined the problem. She's defined potentially who the users are here. They're people 2 years old and over, if you read her slide. And now she wants to go and build it. So before we even talk about medical or digital, you know, really what is your product and what problem is it solving? And this is kind of where I want to start because this is the path we had to walk and the path we continue to walk every single time that we go down to build a new product. So I'm sure most of you heard this definition of product market fit, but it's really important. And if you haven't, it's important to go through it again. So I'm going to go through it very quickly. The market will dictate the product. If you start to build your product without understanding your market, you're going to have a product for nobody. And so it's really important to define who your target customer is and what are their underserved needs before you even really talk about what your product's going to be. You want to build that value proposition so it really meets the need of what the market is asking for. Then you can talk about features and then you can talk about user experience. So for our product, NeuroCatch is focused on neuro-focused clinicians like neurologists and physical therapists who treat brain injuries. Right now, their underserved need is that they have an inability to reliably measure cognitive function after brain injury at the point of care. They can send for additional testing, which is costly and timely, but it's very challenging for them to get an accurate diagnosis at bedside or field side. So what did we come in with? Well, the NeuroCatch platform is a rapid, point of care, scientifically validated, objective measurement of cognitive function to assist clinicians with aiding and diagnosis of brain injury. In terms of features, we have easy to use software, push button simplicity, reliable data acquisition, comparison to reference ranges, and immediate reporting. So there's not a delay between actually the test and the report. And our user experience is built on validation from potential end users and improved constantly with feedback. And I won't go into details there, but this is a very rough sketch of what our product market fit will look like in the next generation of our product. And we follow this process called design thinking. We're trying to get better and better every time we prototype our device. A lot of people will start at this idea that you have an idea and then you build a prototype and you test it and you go back to the idea and you prototype and you test. And you can see from my poor cropping here that there's more to this image that's really, really important before you ideate at all. And the first is empathizing. So you empathize with your end users to actually define what the problem is that they're facing. Once you can define the problem, then you can ideate about whatever the solution might be to the problem. A lot of new founding companies forget about this step and just take their idea straight from the lab or whatever innovation they came up with, prototype, test, and then force fit it back to a user. This is usually a recipe for failure, and it's a dangerous path to go down. You want to learn through this process, go back and forth, iterate through this, and make sure you're constantly empathizing with the users. And what you'll find here actually as we talk about this is you'll understand better whether you're actually building a medical device, a wellness product, or a digital health product. And we'll dive into this a bit deeper. But before you dive straight into becoming a medical device, it's important to know if you need to. because it's pretty burdensome and onerous. And if you can avoid it, um, following the regulations, then it might be in your best interest to do so. So that's the next question that I want to spend a few minutes on. So is my great idea a medical device? And I'm going to show you 3 different products here, which you're probably very familiar with. The first, a sphygmomanometer to measure blood pressure. The second, a tongue depressor. And the third, a Fitbit. And if I was live with you in person right now, I'd ask you to tell me which one of these are medical devices. And because I can't, I'm just going to give you the answer. But you might be surprised to know that the tongue depressor is a medical device. You might not be surprised to know that the blood pressure cuff is a medical device. And lastly, the Fitbit, which gives you a ton of data, it's measuring you all the time, is not a medical device, at least not today. And so it's hard to understand why the Fitbit would be and why the tongue depressor, or why the Fitbit wouldn't be and why the tongue depressor would be. And that's why we want to walk down this path together. So it's a really interesting time to be building any sort of medical or health product because there are very rapidly blurring lines between wellness or digital health and medical devices. And if you find yourself on the right side of this, you can actually take advantage of the FDA and other notified bodies or regulators catching up to where products are going. And they are trying to catch up. There are now guidances in place from the FDA specifically about what digital health is, but it's still kind of behind where products are heading. So digital health is the loosest definition here. And the reason it doesn't fall under the aspect of medical devices is because it basically promotes lifestyle and wellness changes. It might capture and transmit data, but it won't do any more than that. It doesn't require clinical evidence, and therefore they don't meet the regulatory definition of a medical device and don't require regulatory oversight. Where things start to get gray is the digital medicine area. This is hardware or software that measures or intervenes in the service of human health. Clinical evidence is typically required for these digital medicine products, and the requirements for regulatory oversight vary. In the United States, you may fall under the medical device guidance here, and it's really important you walk through the guidance in detail because it might fall there and you might get in trouble if you're not following that path. Then you end up in digital therapeutics, which actually provide evidence-based therapeutic interventions to prevent, manage, or treat a medical disorder. These are medical devices. These require clinical evidence and real-world outcomes, and they must be reviewed and clear. So how do you know where you land? This is a really tricky question these days. So where does a digital health app become a medical device? And I like this chart a lot. It's a great source, this report that came out in September 2017. It's changed again since, but it's an important distinction. I like these categories because they go from wellness prevention. So these are things like exercise and fitness, diet, nutrition, lifestyle, and stress, and so on, that are literally just tracking. They're not telling you what to do. They're just tracking numbers for you, reporting them back through Apple Health or through Android. They are in the wellness space. Symptom onset and seeking care. So this is things like WebMD that basically help you try and understand your symptoms. They give you some basic checking. They help you find a clinician. They're for patient experience. They're not medical devices. As you move further across the right, though, you're moving into the area where you're probably talking about medical devices. So anything that provides diagnosis is almost guaranteed to be a medical device. And I say almost because I can't think of any examples, but maybe there are a couple where they're not. And then there's condition monitoring and treatment. So again, treatment, highly likely to require a medical device, or in this case, pharma approval. And then condition monitoring is interesting because you might say, if I'm just actually actively monitoring a condition, how is it different from wellness and prevention? Well, the difference here is it's actually giving you some guidance on your diagnosis, and that becomes a medical device once you cross over. So it's important to know these categories before you start to develop your product, because if you end up on the right side of that red line, the regulatory oversight becomes much more burdensome. And if you're trying to just stay a digital health app, you want to make sure you stay on the left side and understand the regulations very well. So our interest primarily is in mental health these days, especially following the last year and a half we've had with COVID-19. This has become obviously a huge issue post-recovery, is just mental health and all the effects that we're seeing on individuals from isolation and first responders and the trauma that they come from that. So this report was from 2017, and already in 2017, mental health applications dominated digital health. You can see the breakdown here. Mental health made up more than a quarter of the entire market of all the apps you would find on your phone. And you can probably think of why. There's a lot of easy ways to sort of enter symptoms and track things without diagnosing for mental health. The other ones become slightly more complicated because they require some sort of physiological evaluation. So it's an interesting note. If you're working in this space, it's very predominant, but it might also be saturated. So as you're thinking about developing digital health solutions, it's also important to know what technologies are currently transforming the mental health system. These are all things that are taking over the traditional ways we might look at things. So things like telemedicine, wearables, big data, virtual reality, peer support through social media, robots, gaming, computerized treatments, are all relatively new in taking flight here right now. They may have had a space 5 or 10 years ago, but people are really paying attention, especially now that we've had to do all these things remotely for a year and a half. There's many more ways to get data in and out of the system, and they might not all be medical based. So this is trends in Canada specifically in terms of digital mental health, but this is important because it's probably fairly universal. Number one as a direction is promotion and prevention. This is what the Canadian government is actually advocating for. So they're looking for apps and digital health solutions that promote healthy thinking and treat early onset disorders. And again, the treatment becomes dangerous because that can move into medical space, but there are ways, again, to promote healthy thinking without providing treatment. Secondly is recovery and rights. So chronic illness management, providing rights and access to people. This is number three as well. In, again, a place like Canada, where we're very large, very geographically diverse, and there's not actually a lot of access unless you're in cities or towns to see mental health support. So how do you improve access in time and geography? Disparities and diversity. So personalizing healthcare and tailoring support for different communities, different populations, and recognizing that they are all different. If you can provide digital health solutions there, that's a big bonus in Canada. Focusing on First Nations and Indigenous peoples. So again, we in Canada, I would say, don't do a great job of this generally for our Indigenous health. And so providing opportunities for remote services through robots, potentially, or culturally acceptable interventions, things we don't often pay attention enough to, is a big focus here. And then providing a whole government approach to manage how technology is used in mental health care. So this is what our government, and I would highly recommend, depending on which country you're in, to look at how they're looking at digital health specifically, and in our case, mental health, because it's being talked about deeply. And you might actually have a market that you didn't think of that the government's willing to spend money on and willing to fund. And I think this is an important spot to get towards a conclusion, is understanding our digital health apps by category. So what we've got on the left here are apps in 2017 and 2015. So two measurement points here in blue about wellness management apps. So we're talking about diet, nutrition, lifestyle and stress, and exercise and fitness. And what's surprising is that within those 2 years, the number of these apps actually went down on marketplaces. So it went down from 73% of these types of apps to 60%. Whereas health condition management actually went up. So people were focusing more on paying attention to health conditions because health providers and insurance care providers were actually creating apps for this. And these become very important. They actually almost venture into medical device categories again. But there is a decrease in wellness management apps, and this partially could be just because there's so many of them. It's a fairly saturated market that's hard to compete in. Whereas health condition management, if you partner with insurance providers and healthcare providers, there could be direct funding in that from very large conglomerates, which could actually fund the business a bit better. I think one last caveat I want to leave here, and we could talk about this for a long time, and I apologize, I just have 15 to 20 minutes and we're getting to that time, is understanding that it's not just about making the app. So even if you make a digital health tool that falls in the wellness space, there has to be evidence to support the uptake. If you want to get big buy-in, if you want to get governments involved, if you want to get healthcare providers involved, there's a good article here, and I can share it more widely, but it just talks about how clinical adoption will not happen without validation. So you can create all the apps that you want, but until there's some sort of clinical validation, it's highly unlikely that they have any major uptake. So you're going to want to probably engage in very high quality research, even if you're not building something that requires stage 3 clinical trials. You want to have something to validate the tool that you're making, to make it exciting for both patients and clinicians and providers as well. So it's a little caveat just to finish on here, is that it's not a solution just to build a digital health app to avoid regulators. You probably still and should invest in validating your tool to make sure it works for what it says it's going to do. So a lot there in a very short amount of time, and I just want to leave with some thoughts, because these are some things we've had to think about deeply. If you're thinking about commercializing your idea, fantastic, that's great, that's exciting, it's a very fun time to be around. Be extremely open-minded. Your first idea, and probably your 10th idea is not close to perfect. It needs a lot of work. Find mentors and advisors. And so this type of forum is wonderful. You'll be exposed to lots of different people who've gone through this before who might be able to help. They're absolutely invaluable. And also finding very good contractors who can help you here as well. Pitch early and pitch often. I know that was part of the purpose of today. But don't just do it once. Do this over and over and over again. Take feedback from your pitches and do it again. Do it to your friends, do it to anybody who will listen, because you will always just get better. Spend time identifying your absolute core customer. Who's going to be the first early adopter on board, and how are you going to get them to be excited? Know your market, your competitors, and your potential partners. Often we look at everybody in the same space as us as a competitor, and in actuality, there's a lot of partners out there. And when you open conversations, you want to be conscientious of your own IP, but be aware that someone might be out there trying to help you, and you might actually have a perfect synergy between the two of you to make a stronger value proposition. Clearly understand your core customers' needs and pain points, and this is specifically back to product market fit. So understand what they need so you can make sure your value proposition makes sense. Define your value proposition in terms of cost, time, and efficiencies. Fail fast, because you're probably going to fail a few times. It's going to feel good eventually to fail. It might not feel great the first time, because you're going to learn from it. You're going to do better. And be persistent and ready to adapt. So, again, this goes back to number one. You might not get there the first way you think you're going to. You have to be ready to change your idea at all times. And, it might not be a complete switch, but as the market changes, as things shift, as COVID-19 hits, you might have to move from your original idea and never get too attached. And then make it a reality. So here's Georgia. She has her pretzel image here with all of her value proposition drawn out with her core customer. She won this contest. She had this fabricated by a 3D printer. And now she has this beautiful pretzel hook so she can eat 47 pretzels at the same time. I want to thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I wish we had more time to get into this, but do feel free to get in touch. And I always recommend getting more than one opinion. You can find me on Twitter or on my email there. And thank you again to all the team here, and looking forward to chatting with you soon.
Many thanks to Bimal for his insightful talk. There's a lot of great advice in there for digital health and medical device startups. We move on now to the main event. We've been working for the past year with 4 great teams. Whether working on their product market fit, prototype development, or building data analysis pipelines, it has been both challenging and exciting to work on these fantastic projects. So first up is Kaylee Sullivan, CEO of Resonance Therapeutics, whose team is working on a novel non-pharmaceutical depression treatment using a combination of EEG and electrical stimulation.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Sullivan. I'm excited to introduce Resonance Therapeutics. A medical technology startup based in Melbourne, Australia, RTX is pioneering drug-free therapeutics for better mental health care at home. Spun out of Monash University in partnership with Neuromotion to commercialize an invention that has the potential to fundamentally change the way we diagnose and treat brain disorders. Mental health requires urgent action. We don't need statistics. We can look to our friends, family, and co-workers to witness the challenges for those struggling with depression, anxiety, addiction, dementia, many of whom spend years with different doctors, therapists, and specialists in a trial and error approach, trying a multitude of medications and interventions. 60% of all patients treated for depression will fail to benefit from their first line of treatment, many suffering extensive side effects and repeated relapse. Depression has a global economic burden over $1 trillion, set to become the world's #1 health concern in the coming years. Why now? In the US, Europe, China alone, there are 96 million people with major depression entering primary care every year. 3 out of 5 will not respond to first-line treatment. Over 50 million treatment-resistant patients are seeking specialist care from a healthcare sector in crisis. It's understaffed and oversubscribed. That's 300 treatment-resistant patients for every 1 practicing psychiatrist and 0 truly effective treatments. Treatment-resistant depression presents a $100 billion underserved market opportunity and desperately needs to be addressed. RTX was born out of a therapeutic brain stimulation lab in Melbourne, Australia. Our founders have played a pivotal role in its widespread adoption into clinical practice over the past 20 years. Our work with TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, has shown that it is possible, that delivering electricity rhythmically to the prefrontal cortex can break the cycle of depression, For some patients, a single course of TMS can bring an end to years of suffering. Typical treatment lasts 1 month. Patients will travel to and from the clinic every day for 4 weeks. High staff costs, overhead expenses gets passed on to patients, many of whom are paying thousands of dollars out of pocket. The fundamental problem, TMS technology does not scale. So what if we could do this at home? TES, transcranial electrical stimulation, is emerging as a more scalable alternative. Uses low-intensity electrical currents passed directly through the scalp. Devices are smaller, cheaper, and can be packaged for patients to self-administer at home. Promising clinical trial results and the prospects of a cheap, drug-free home-use therapy is fueling a lot of commercial activity in this space, with one major caveat: mixed results. There's massive variability in patient response. Some will respond, some will relapse, some will see no benefit at all. Why? A general lack of precision, large differences between individuals, and a very large set of tunable parameters poses a big problem for the optimization and clinical validation of new therapies. So, what if we could treat each brain individually? If we could objectively measure and diagnose, treat and track changes, and tailor our stimulation to an individual's own brain? Necessity is the mother of invention. We set out to fix this exact problem. I'm here today to share our solution. We built a device capable of simultaneously measuring and stimulating the brain, reading and writing changes in brain activity, and modulating behavior. We're using it to develop a personalized and targeted home use therapy that offers new hope for millions of sufferers. At the core is our unique active balancing current source with fully integrated EEG and a powerful onboard signal processor. We can measure brainwaves, analyze activity, and stimulate to match frequency, phase, and direction. We can repeatedly measure and stimulate and adapt in real time to optimize and improve outcomes. Delivered alongside a wearable headset and easy to use patient control interface, our system is designed for patients to use at home in a way that is safe and simple to self administer. Our treatments can be remotely monitored and safely deployed by health practitioners into people's homes. As the world embraces an age of digital therapeutics, we're building a digital dispensary where your diagnosis is based on your own brain and your personalized prescription comes in a very different kind of tablet. We're bringing the clinic to the couch in a way that's accessible, affordable, and effective. We have invented and successfully licensed key methods and core technologies, with 2 patents pending and 1 patent granted, including worldwide exclusive rights to commercialize and sublicense our active balancing current source technology in all fields. We're building a formidable portfolio. We'll soon be adding new features, adaptive algorithms, and disease-specific applications to the fold. Our designs and algorithms have been successfully prototyped, tested, and safely used in human subjects. Clinical prototypes are in production with access to medically accredited manufacturing facilities and a team of world-class engineers. We have access to patients, research facilities, and a wealth of experience designing and running clinical trials. There is demand from the research market that will provide an early customer base. Special projects and sub-licensing rights means that RTX has revenue-generating potential from day one. An even greater asset, our founding team, draws knowledge, experience, and passion together in a powerful constellation. We are uniquely positioned to know the challenges that come from working on the frontiers of psychiatry. We're driven by a mission to make things better, transform cutting-edge technology into novel therapies and clinical practice, bringing it out of the lab and into the homes of those that need it most. Our focus is on treating depression with an initial target on treatment resistance. Main customers are practitioners working in specialist mental health care. End users are patients that have failed to recover from their first line of treatment. We were born global, with access to established sales and distribution channels and large networks of key opinion leaders. We're expecting to see early adoption coming from existing TMS clinics. We're offering a more scalable solution that can be deployed at home and remotely managed, with lower overheads, lower staff costs, and more convenient care options. With the recent pandemic, we've seen an increased demand for out-of-clinic treat from home solutions and an alarmingly sharp rise in people seeking mental health related support. By meeting market driven clinical needs, we're creating a new standard of care that both dramatically improves outcomes and reduces costs for patients, providers, and a high value proposition for payers with potential pathways to reimbursement. An added advantage of our self administered treatments and remote data collection is that clinical trials can be conducted at home in parallel at massive scale. Our protocols are hardware-enabled but inherently software-controlled. This facilitates rapid iteration and innovation compared to the pharmaceutical industry, rich discovery pipeline, and fast turnaround for new therapies. Our roadmap: we have a clinical prototype in production. In the next 12 to 18 months, we plan to launch our early access program, bring investigational devices to the research market, develop our regulatory reimbursement strategies, and commence our clinical trials, strongly positioning ourselves to enter clinical market early 2023. We want to accelerate our roadmap with an upcoming seed funding round, with the goals of growing the team, launching our research product, building out the cloud solution, setting the stage for decentralized clinical trials towards rapid regulatory approval, and our first clinical product. We're committed to a future where better brain health is accessible and affordable to everyone. I extend a warm invitation to reach out and connect. It would be great to work together on this. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Next up is Kristen Gretherson, CEO of Vistim Labs. Vistim is developing a novel and very timely method for the early detection of Alzheimer's disease.
Good morning. My name is Kristen Gretherson. I'm a co-founder of Vistim Labs. Today, it's my honor to introduce a novel biomarker for early detection of amyloid beta, or AB. Vistim Labs is a joint effort by Neuromotion and Columbia University. Dementia is a global pandemic with 50 million people suffering from the disease today. Alzheimer's disease, dementia's most common type, has now taken over from cancer as America's most feared disease. The cost of dementia is expected to reach $2 trillion by 2030. There is no cure for the disease, and diagnostics are extremely expensive. Dementia poses a very high burden on family members, carers, as well as healthcare systems. Alzheimer's disease is a uniquely challenging disease with no available cure. 10 to 20 years prior to onset of the clinical disease, a protein called amyloid beta, or A-beta, will start to build up in the brain, causing plaques and ultimately killing brain cells and cause brain failure. Once the disease is finally diagnosed, there's little that can be done except treat the symptoms and watch the disease take its course. For this reason, there's an urgent need to develop new biomarkers for early diagnosis and early detection of the A-beta protein. Detecting amyloid is required to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. This is either done with extraction of cerebral spinal fluid, also referred to as lumbar puncture, which is expensive, highly invasive, and carries a high risk of severe side effects. PET, or positron emission tomography, is a preferred method for A-beta detection, although invasive and extremely costly. The device itself is north of $6 million, and the cost of a single test is more than $6,000 in the private setting. A few days ago, Biogen's Aduhelm attracted world attention as the first new treatment for Alzheimer's disease in over 20 years. Aduhelm received a conditional approval by the FDA and is required to continue clinical research into its safety and efficacy profile. The drug has sparked significant controversy, and as of now, 3 FDA panel members have quit over its approval. This new drug poses significant challenges to the US healthcare system. Patients need a PET test for diagnosis, and the first year cost of diagnosis is $30,000. Furthermore, the annual cost of diagnosis thereafter is estimated at $15,000 per year. This high cost poses a significant challenge to the healthcare systems, as well as Biogen and other pharma companies to follow. As of now, there is no indication that Medicare and Medicaid will approve the use of PET in Alzheimer's diagnostics, making this drug limited to private insurance only. Vistim Labs will introduce a patented EEG-based biomarker for early detection of the A-beta protein. This will allow pharma companies, clinical research organizations, and Alzheimer's research centers to identify those patients who should undergo a PET test. The value proposition here is compelling at a cost of 15 times lower than a PET test. The Vistim biomarker is a non-invasive, affordable, and easy-to-use system. Patients are fitted with a Vistim head cap and then presented a visual stimuli while EEG data is recorded to capture the brain's response to the stimuli. The visual stimuli data, along with the EEG, is automatically analyzed. A report is then generated, showing the likelihood of amyloid positivity. The company's initial market focus will be on meeting the needs of pharma, CROs, and AD researchers. There are 245 ongoing clinical trials in the US alone, where 121 agents are being investigated. Having said this, we realize that there are significant opportunities for our solution in the clinical setting, as well as for at-home monitoring. A companion biomarker for a pharmaceutical agent is also a likely outcome for the purpose of sorting out potential responders versus non-responders. I present here an example of how Vistim will bring value to a clinical trial. Eli Lilly is currently conducting a phase 3 trial on their promising donanemab compound. They aim to recruit 2,500 subjects for their trial. In order to achieve this, they will need to test at least 12,500 subjects to find 2,500 individuals who test positive for A-beta in a PET test. The cost for this task alone is $75 million. Using Vistim to pre-screen subjects for A-beta, the company could save $55 million on PET cost alone. This is a significant and compelling value proposition. The global market for Alzheimer's diagnostic market is extremely large at $6.6 billion. The serviceable market for US alone is also significant at $2.6 billion. Vistim Labs will focus on pharma, CROs, and AD research centers with an estimated serviceable obtainable market size of $500 million. Following success in this area, we will pursue further opportunities in routine clinical diagnosis and at-home monitoring. Neuromotion is an important partner for Vistim Labs. It allows us to capitalize on the company's existing product solutions, including a high-quality EEG system, standardized head caps for easy and consistent application, as well as regulatory approvals. It is also most fortunate for Vistim that Neuromotion had the foresight to engage in a collaboration effort with a leading academic hospital by a world-renowned authority in the field of Alzheimer's and dementia. This project started more than 3 years ago and includes a large dataset containing PET, EEG, and other biomarkers. Data collection is now completed, and the company can make use of this research without delay. Our leadership team, in addition to myself, includes James Hammett, a biotech inventor with experience in EEG, Dr. Frank Sano, CEO of Neuromotion with more than 20 years experience in neuroscience, and last but not least, Professor Dan Javid, professor at Columbia University. Dr. Javid is the inventor of the Vistim amyloid detection method. Vistim Labs is seeking $3 million in funding and offering 10% of the company in return. We expect to secure at least $4 million in deals in the next 18 months and to achieve annual revenue of $20 to $40 million over the next 3 to 5 years. For this purpose, we are seeking the $3 million mentioned. Furthermore, we expect the company to achieve a break-even point by end of year 2. The funding will be used as follows: management and R&D 43%, marketing 27%, legal and administration 15%, professional services 12%, equipment 3%. I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at kristin.grederson@neuromotion.com.
Our next pitch will be given by the CEO of Neurobright, Stephen Elliott, who will talk about his team's mission to revolutionize occupational mental health.
Hi, I'm Stephen, the co-founder and CEO of Neurobright, and we're creating the next generation of AI wearable devices to help solve the massive problem of deteriorating global mental health. Mental health is something that affects almost all of us, whether it's ourselves personally or someone we know. The World Health Organization has said that 86% of us feel stress around work or money at some point, but yet only 15% of us receive any adequate help or treatment. Now, this could be because we don't know where to get help, we are maybe too embarrassed or ashamed to ask for help, or we simply can't afford the help. So to us, mental health is the real global pandemic, and Neurobright is here to help address that problem. Mental health is the biggest global burden of disease. It's bigger than cancer, it's bigger than diabetes, and it's bigger than chronic respiratory disease combined. It affects more than 13% of the population, which means more than 1 billion people are affected worldwide. Now, this comes at a cost, and again, the World Health Organization has estimated the cost of treatment to reach $14 trillion by 2030. This picture probably looks quite familiar to many of us, and it's no surprise to see that every year we lose more than 500 million days lost to sickness and ill health around the world. 44% of employees report burnout. That's almost half the global workforce that reports burnout due to stress, anxiety, pressures from work, and also pressures from life. But this costs the global economy $1 trillion every single year. Now, this is time and money that can be saved, and it can be saved with the use of Neurobright. Neurobright offers an accessible, scalable, easy to use solution that delivers fast results with similar long-term gains as psychostimulant medication and with absolutely no side effects. And in fact, you'll see here that the award that we won last year was for the prototype that we developed. Now, I hasten to add that that is just a sketch above the award there, but that's part of the development process, the ongoing development process that Neurobright is going under just now. So what is Neurobright? What does Neurobright actually do? Well, Neurobright is a first-in-class, AI-driven, closed-loop, wearable solution that improves mental wellness, increases creativity, improves performance, and increases IQ. So you have a workforce that's happier, healthier, more productive, that's capable of solving problems more creatively, and adding massively to the business's bottom line. The corporate wellness market is set to reach $100 billion by 2027, and my own experience as a corporate trainer and executive coach for over 16 years has taught me that there's a massive need to address the issue of mental wellness within the workplace. Now, I'm fortunate to have worked with some FTSE 500 companies and also Scottish Government, and in most cases, I'm approached with the issues around anxiety and stress leading to low mood and sometimes depression that ultimately affects performance. I'm happy to say that I was able to help many of them, but with the best will in the world, I'm only one person. So in order to address the need on a global scale, the desire to create a technology solution that was going to meet the mass market demand is where Neurobright was born. The value that Neurobright delivers to businesses is absolutely huge. Neurobright helps businesses save money by reducing sickness and absenteeism. It helps them save money on recruitment costs from having to replace their burned out, stressed out staff. But Neurobright also helps businesses make money by creating a happy, healthy, positive and productive workforce that are more creative, intelligent and better at their job. It creates a positive company culture that attracts the brightest talent to work for you. And that means that you not only beat the competition, but you add massively to your bottom line. More recently, we have demoed the technology with one of the big four accounting firms, and the response was absolutely phenomenal, to the extent that they have been helping us with development, and they continue to keep a keen eye on progress. And we are looking forward to showing them the next stage in development very soon. Quite simply, Neurobright is the ultimate competitive edge, and I'd like to introduce you to the team that have helped make the Neurobright dream a reality. So you heard a bit about me earlier, but I'd also like to introduce you to Colin, my co-founder, a genius software engineer with more than 20 years experience, who's worked with the likes of Renault Formula One when they won 2 world championships. I'd like to introduce you to Craig, who has been with us for over a year now. He's an amazing CFO who helps with business and financial strategy planning, and he helps businesses raise 7- and 8-figure funding rounds. So we're delighted to have Craig on board. But I'd also like to introduce you to the newest member of our team, Frank. Now, Frank has over 24 years experience in the neurotech space, and he is the CEO and founder of Neuromotion and the Neuromotion Group. So Frank brings his own expertise and an amazing team of people to help bring the Neurobright dream one step closer to that reality. But we also have an outstanding group of advisors in universities in the UK and also in Germany that advise us on issues on neuroscience, neurology, psychology, and the arts to help us develop the ultimate in mental wellness and performance enhancing devices. If you would like to find out more about our crusade and help us achieve our goals, either as a member of the team or as an investor, we would love to hear from you. So join us and help the revolution of tomorrow's evolution today. Thank you.
Our final pitch will be given by Dr. Andrea Biaziucci, CEO of Braincredible. The Braincredible team has their eye on brain big data and have big plans to make it easier to collect at scale.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Biaziucci. I am the CEO and founder of Braincredible, a neurotechnology company based in Switzerland. Neuroscience and neurotechnology have shown dramatic improvements over the last few years, and the grand challenge to understand how to interact with the human brain, how to decode information and encode information into it, may be at reach. At Braincredible, our mission is to remove any barrier to the exploitation of big brain data, and we believe that this is the most important topic of this field. Let me tell you why. In this video, you can see a prototype that we developed a few years ago at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne. This brain-computer interface for stroke rehabilitation was able to detect the attempt of a paralyzed person to move a paralyzed limb from the electrical activity collected from the scalp, what we call the EEG, electroencephalogram. As you see, the machine is able to detect whenever the user is engaged and can deliver a stimulation of the muscles, completing the movement in the paralyzed limb, and this helps patients recover function. This was very exciting back then. It still is very exciting, and as a young biomedical engineer, I was passionate about the idea that this research could help thousands of people. Despite the fact that the clinical trials that we ran were highly successful, these prototypes still remain largely in research labs. They didn't make it to the larger population. The reason for this is that the EEG logistics is complex. This means that it is complex to gather data from EEG, and it is complex also to have the personnel that has the right qualification to ensure that the data is high quality. In general, the artificial intelligence, such as the one that you've seen in the previous video, the potential of these solutions is highly limited by data availability. If you want to have an algorithm that performs well, that is well adaptive to different users, you need a lot of data, and that's often not the case. On top of this, there is a general and well-known lack of signal processing standardization in this world of EEG. And this leads to each research lab developing an own recipe or approach to extract information, which limits the replicability of scientific studies and then also their impact into larger market. Now, at Braincredible, we have chosen a different path. We believe that our clients, or in general, any researcher in this topic or any person interested in understanding the brain, should concentrate on owning data, not hardware, that we need to collect the data. For this reason, our offering is basically we make data gathering scalable. We allow our clients to access data without the need of owning EEG machines. And we have the ambition to lower the cost per unit of brain data. So if you think of how much it costs to acquire a unit of brain data, an hour of brain data, for example, you may think that as of today, this costs $200. That would be a figure that represents this measure. And our ambition is to provide systems in a way that can lower this cost. Let me give you a practical example. Assume that you have a budget of $100,000 and 6 months of time to provide the results that can help you demonstrate your hypothesis is true. In the current world, you would use a single system. You would buy a high-density EEG system, and over 6 months, with skilled personnel, you could record 20 to 40 subjects. With Braincredible, you would have access to 10 systems for a limited amount of time, and you would be able to record up to more than 1,000 subjects. That's what I mean. Our value proposition is based on the fact that we can deliver up to 20 times more data to our clients at the same cost of conventional systems or conventional approaches. That's what we call scalability. We do this by parallelizing the recording of brain data, and from this point of view, we overcome the traditional way of thinking, of imagining neuroscience experiments, where we have a single subject with a single system mounted on a single operator working on the subject. In this case, we can deploy a large number of EEG systems on demand. We can have trained personnel, certified personnel that participates to the kickoff of these sessions and ensures that the data quality is high and can be done in a timely fashion. And even more, we have imagined a world where we can decentralize data collection. This can be seen in two ways. From one side, we can rely on a network of excellent centers in Europe that have demonstrated a solid proof of competence in collecting data that can replicate experiments that were done somewhere else, or can augment the population of a study that was maybe started in another location. We can also imagine to develop hardware that is going in the houses of people, it's reaching people at home, and is collecting data at the end user place. So after all, we are trying to address the big demand for fresh data after the COVID-19 stop. All the research in the world has stopped for 1.5 years now, and we need to absolutely go back to speed, collect data, analyze data, and bring this new innovation to the world. Our business model is fairly simple. Braincredible is a spin-off of the Neuromotion group, and we can access hardware at cost from the ANT Neuro family, and we can provide tens of systems as a service to our clients. Our clients' niches and segments include industry, clinical research organizations, pharma and medtech, and academia, large research centers or conglomerates of a few principal investigators that decide to join together and make a big deployment of EEG. We can offer very convenient pay-per-use and pay-per-subject schemes that make and related services that include analysis of data, AI pipelines, artificial intelligence pipelines, but also recruiting services that can speed up the time for running experiments. And this can be done with a very highly profitable business for us, with margins above 90% in a compounded way between systems and services. Our competition is mainly defined by EEG manufacturers. These are companies that are on the market for small to medium companies that have been on the market for a few years. They focus on hardware, and new startups based in the US that speak of neuroscience as a service. You may have heard Kernel, for example. There is also Google X, and now called the Moonshot Factory, that is active in this area, in this domain. And they have a data focus. They mainly concentrate on delivering data. And Neuralink is a bit between these two worlds. It's trying to do something that can fit both hardware and data exploitation. Well, our ambition is to be up here, where we can be something like Kernel, but with more hardware. We like the definition. So we believe that we can really deliver value by having a strong know-how in data and also a strong foot in hardware and manufacturing and customization. The market is very large. We are talking about a neuroscience and neuromarkers market of more than 6 billion worldwide, a total addressable market, we have also an addressable market of excellent centers, pharma and CROs, that is about 2 billion, and an operable market that we can reach of approximately 1 billion of big research centers and CROs focused on neuro topics. The management team is composed by myself. I have a PhD in brain-computer interfaces and more than 10 years in neurotechnology. I spent also a few years as a consultant in medical technology and regulatory affairs, and I am a serial startup founder. This is my second startup. The first one was acquired in 2017 and was still a startup about neurotechnology. Dr. Frank Zano is our Chief Operational Officer. He has a PhD in neuroscience. He's the founder of the anti-neuro family, and he has more than 20 years of business with EEG. And Dr. Paolo Ruggeri, our Chief Product Officer, he has a PhD in physics and more than 10 years in research as well. He's an expert in EEG, and he has very deep expertise about large-scale recordings and all the problems related to this type of data collection. We are currently incubated at the ARC. It's the local incubator of Canton Valais in Switzerland, and we are receiving excellent support from the incubator. We look forward to the next step. So far, we are completing the incorporation of the company here in Sion, in Valais, in Switzerland. We have the ambition to have 3 customers by Q4 2021, and I'm very happy to tell you that as we speak, we are closing our first 2 contracts with 2 of them. And finally, we are planning a global launch of our company in Q1 2022, together with a concept of our web platform that will provide the related services for recruiting, for analysis in 2022. So now, since I know that this audience is composed by researchers and investors, I would like to speak to both parts or segments. So if you are a researcher and you would like to be the third client, or if you have an ambitious idea, if you have an idea that needs a lot of subjects, you want to be the first one in your field to do that, please contact us. You will see my contact in the next slide. We may find a way to make your vision true. And we are currently in a pre-seeding phase. We can count on many non-dilutive funds from Switzerland. We will soon be raising funds in our seeding round. So if you want to invest in our company, please contact me. I look forward to hearing back from you, and it's a pleasure to demonstrate this for the first time, and hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.
That concludes the first Neuromotion Ventures Demo Day. Thank you for your attention, and thank you to Bimal for his great talk. I also want to thank our teams for the huge amount of work they have put in over the last year. If you would like to speak to any of our teams about investment opportunities or partnerships, their contact details will be shared in a follow-up email after this event. We will also be putting up a recording on the Neuromotion Ventures YouTube channel. As Neuromotion Ventures grows, we will be putting on more demo days, so we really appreciate your feedback. If you have a great neurotech or medtech technology and a commercialization plan and are interested in working with us to build your company, don't hesitate to get in contact. Thank you.